Hello, welcome to Applique by Embroidery Machine with Kay Hickman.
Applique, created on the embroidery machine, takes that time-honored technique to a whole new level. Not only is machine-embroidered applique fast and easy, you will find that every corner and every curve is absolutely perfect, as you can see on this beautiful quilt created by Elaine Cibelli. Let's take a closer look at how this technique is done on the embroidery machine. You will need an applique design created for the embroidery machine, and there are very many that you can choose from. Today we will work with a design from the new BERNINA exclusive design collection, Imperial Gardens. The background to the flowers that you see on screen is fabric, not thread. Let's take a look at two methods now that can be used to create the applique shape. We're going to look at the pattern method and the trim and place method. Let's start with the pattern method. It was going to consist of 3 steps. First is the placement stitch. Next comes a tack down stitch, which may be a zigzag stitch or it may be a straight line. And then comes the cover stitch that comes back and covers up the raw edges. To do this method, you're going to hoop your fabric and your stabilizer together, and then you're going to stitch the placement line. The thread chart is going to give you very specific information about what is stitching where. The screen of the machine will show you the color but will not show you the description, so it's helpful to use the thread chart. The flower placement stitches first, and then you're going to position fabric that you've cut out ahead of time inside those stitch lines. You need to be as precise here as possible. Then the next stitch is going to be the tack down. On this collection it's called the cut line and tack down because it can be used for either of the 2 methods. Continue to stitch the details going color by color. This design has the cover stitch stitches about halfway through the design. Then you will finish the design step by step, color by color, until the design is finished and your creation is complete. Where are you going to get the pattern for the applique shape? The BERNINA design collections will have a PDF that accompanies that collection, and from there you can print that pattern. You will find the complete directions on that PDF that will show you how to set up your printer so that your printers will print at the correct size, and it will also tell you how to save paper, because there are some 51 on this particular collection, 51 pages of patterns, and you only want to print one specific one if you're only doing the one design. You're going to cut a piece of fabric slightly larger than that applique pattern, and then it's a good idea to apply an applique fusible product such as Applique Fusion Fix to the back and then cut out the design. Again, you're being very careful to cut as close to that line as you can. This design collection has the printed pattern. You put it on the top side of the fabric. BERNINA collections and those created by OESD will be printed this way. But if you're using a design from another source, check the instructions to see if you're supposed to put your pattern on the top side of the fabric or on the back side of the fabric. If you have the cutwork tool, you can use some files that are on this collection to cut out this shape very quickly. So look for the icon of the cutwork tool if you have this cutwork accessory, and then you'll be able to cut these out. You will select the design that you want, and then you will start by setting up your machine for your cutwork. So you will first hoop a stabilizer by itself, a heavy stabilizer such as heavyweight tearaway, and then you're going to stack up some fabric that has been backed again with that fusible backing product, and then stack as many as you need, up to about 10 layers. The first stitch that stitches is the basting stitch. That stitches around the outside edge of this flower, and it's going to hold all of those layers together as you begin to cut. So you have your cutwork accessory on your machine, the foot, and you have the plate that is specific to your machine, and then you are going to attach the hoop and stitch the first cut. When that finishes, it will say cut 2 on the screen of the machine, so you will rotate the little dial just above the cutwork tool until you see the 2, and then cut some more. Then you will rotate again until you see 3, and it will cut again, another set of cuts, and then finally you're going to turn it to a 4, and it will stitch the remainder of the cuts. When you finish, you're going to see cut lines inside all of those stitched lines, and then you can just use your fingers to pop those out of the hoop. Using the cutwork tool is a fast way to create multiples of a shape when you're doing more than one applique. The second method is the trim and place method. We still have those same 3 steps, but we do have an additional step that comes right after the placement stitch, and that's called a cutting line or the cutting stitch. You will first hoop fabric with the correct stabilizer, and you stitch the placement stitch, which is the outline of the heart. Now, instead of cutting out a heart shape ahead of time, you're going to place the fabric over the placement lines with the pretty side up. And then you stitch the cut line. The cut line is basically a duplicate of that placement line, and it stitches directly over that first line of stitching. But this is what you're going to cut against. You will use a sharp pair of scissors to cut as close as you can to that stitched line. After you do that, the machine then will come back and stitch the tack down, which is the zigzag stitch here. And then finally it will stitch the cover stitch, and your design will be complete. You can choose whichever method you wish. If you are using something with very intricate shapes, though, it might be better to use the pattern method, because it would be very difficult to cut out these small areas inside the flower shapes with a pair of scissors. If you are using a blanket cover stitch, you might also choose the pattern method, because otherwise you would have that zigzag stitch coming along, and then you would be able to see that underneath the blanket stitch. So cut those 2 patterns out ahead of time. So which method you prefer doesn't matter. Just have fun creating wonderful projects using your machine embroidery to do applique. Then sit back and enjoy your new creation.